Hi, everyone. Hello. Welcome to VCTV, the Venture Capital TV from LATOKEN. So today we have two brand new speakers on VCTV Asia on a brand new topic. So VCTV, before I jump into introducing the speakers and the topic, I'd like to take back both of you to where we started, like VCTV back in February 2020. And the reason behind it was we were all locked down. The entire world went to a shutdown. So we couldn't travel, we couldn't meet, we couldn't go to conferences. So that's when VCTV, which is the Venture Capital TV, was born to connect investors like yourselves and entrepreneurs like yourself who are looking for help in terms of funding, networking, getting that much needed mentoring, all that stuff that comes with fundraising. So that was when VCTV, the Venture Capital TV, was born. Ever since then, I do shows Monday to Friday, every day at 8 p.m. Singapore. So basically, I'm based here in Singapore. I'm the regional director of LATOKEN, and LATOKEN is behind VCTV. So that's me. So today's topic is very interesting. Something new for me to learn as well from our speakers who are very experienced in the area. It's about blockchain technology to protect the IP, the intellectual property in media and industry and entertainment, media industry and entertainment industry. So it's a very interesting topic, very technical as well. So that's why we've got two speakers who are very experienced in that space. So today we have two speakers, Telly and John. Hi, Telly. Hi, John. Welcome to VCTV Asia.
Hello, good morning.
Ah,
John Francis.
morning, morning. What time is it for you, John?
It is now 8 a.m.
Ah, we are 12 hours out. It's 8 p.m. for me in Singapore.
Wow, we're getting up and you're going to bed. Wow, that's fantastic.
Soon. Yeah, but it's okay. All right, perfect. Telly, welcome to, you've spoken at VCTV US. This is probably your second session on VCTV Asia. So welcome to VCTV, and I would like you to introduce yourself because, yeah, our speakers would like to know more about you. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Asia. I'm dialing in all the way in the Caribbean. I'm actually in St. Kitts and Nevis and on the lovely island of Nevis. A lot of people know it because it's great for asset protection. So if you're in financial services, you know where Nevis is, and
Yeah.
Telly's here. So a little background on myself, really quick. I have a multidisciplinary background. I'm a digital economist, been a management consultant for over 20 years, then started to do the pivot into finance, where I have been focusing on digital assets as well as the intersection of finance and financial innovation. I've been doing a lot in the area of fintech, but more in infrastructure, focused on the infrastructure layers that drives fintech. Also, my area, a little bit about me is I'm also a serial entrepreneur, so I always dabble in things. In the space of IP media and working, I do a lot of work in digital transformation along different sectors, inclusive of the creative sector. So, you know, uh, clustering projects, strategic alliances, helping startups in that space kind of co create and co design systems. So I'm very familiar with different business models and emerging business models in the space. I'm a co founder for Beyond Capital Markets, which is really a digital asset management firm as well as a financial market infrastructure firm, digital financial market infrastructure firm based here in Nevis. Also co-founder of a startup called a fintech incubator called Pro House Labs, and in that incubator we incubate a number of fintech startups. One of which has been born, and it's called AltScoop. So it's the
Right.
first school for uh, digital finance, the first tech school for digital finance. There, we partnered with Middlesex University, and we're offering the first set of postgraduate programs in the area of digital financial market infrastructure to help companies, entities kind of develop embedded finance projects or products and manage that. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I have a master's in electronic governance. So anything
Ah,
to do with problem solving, complex systems, and this topic is near and dear in my heart because from an economic lens, we are in the fourth revolution and the orange economy, which is the creative economy, depends heavily on intellectual property and
yeah.
intellectual.
How is the pandemic in Navis? Like, how is the like?
We got zero, so you could come visit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
we were pretty much in lockdown for most of the year. Eased the lockdown, so they opened borders on October 31st. So they have put in some really good stringent protocols. So unfortunately, you're going to have a 2 week quarantine, but you can do a 2 week quarantine on a lovely resort on the beach and enjoy yourself. So they have this vacation in residence. So
Wow.
workation, anyone? You could
Yeah.
come down for a workation. It is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Behind me, that's the peak of Nevis. So I'm on Nevis. So that's the Mount Nevis, and you can see it's sanctuary. After lockdown, you want to just relax, and it's really the best place to be right now. To
Telly,
be
you
honest,
know what? I'm already planning,
I
planning.
so
I'm already packing, already planning to go to come and visit my new friend. Nevis. Lovely. Your background is so lovely. You know, I just want to go
yeah,
and
the Mount
inside.
Nevis.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Telly, for that introduction, and nice to have you on Asia episode of VCTV. Next, John. Um,
Hello.
yeah, can you please help introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay, my name is John Francis. I'm sitting right now in St. Kitts, the sister island to Nevis. Um, St. Kitts, Nevis, we're the smallest country in the Western Hemisphere. I was born in St. Kitts, but I grew up in Europe, in England, and started my career in music in England,
Right.
basically as management and small label owners. Um, Over the years, I've worked almost exclusively in the music industry as an entrepreneur. Um, Never actually worked within the major companies, but worked alongside them with launching artists and for their careers, whether they were singing live or recording, handling their management, their publishing, and so forth. So I've been in the music industry for more than 30 years now,
Wow.
uh, and have starting off pretty young in the business. My discipline education has been in advertising
Right.
and marketing. When I left university, I joined an advertising agency in London and applied what I learned in those early days to my entrepreneurial spirit, so to speak.
Okay.
So I've been involved in music on many levels
Yeah.
and returned back to St. Kitts 10 years ago, probably a bit more than that, maybe 12 years ago, in an attempt to sort of bring together the experience I had attained over the years that to the region. I felt that there was a need to go back to the roots, so to speak, of Afro-Caribbean music, which has been my speciality.
Right.
And there was a need here because the industry didn't exist. It still doesn't exist, really. There's not an industry as such, since we suffer a lot from demonetization, we'll call it that. And so there is a wonderful opportunity for investment in the Caribbean here for music, because the industry doesn't exist as such as an industry. There is business being undertaken here, but as an industry where it's self-sustaining, it doesn't really exist here. So that's been my main focus for the last few years. I jumped onto the technology aspect early, back in the days of digital distribution. It's the start of digital distribution, with pre Spotify and pre whatever exists now with downloads, and then have kept along kept along with the development of the digital's part of music management. And right now, I think the with the advent of blockchain in front of us, where there are great opportunities for music to be monetized in a much more serious way. You know, because we've had problems of piracy and yeah, and just general mayhem in the music industry over the last few years. In fact, the changes from physical distribution to digital distribution has been trying for us management people in the music business, but the new blockchain will present much better opportunities for us to monetize ourselves, and the Caribbean has a chance to join in with the new world of music management and monetization, and that's my main focus at the moment.
Perfect. John, just a quick question. How's the weather in St. Kitts right now? Because we like to see you and the background if you have a lovely background. Silly.
Well, at the moment, we are going through. We have two main seasons. We have the hurricane season and the non-hurricane season.
Right.
Right at the moment, we the end of November, so we're going into the non-hurricane season. We've all kept our fingers firmly crossed that we didn't get hit. There've been a lot of storms here. In fact, we've had more named storms in the history of recording hurricane events.
Mm-hmm.
But the islands have been spared.
Right.
Uh, and so we thank God for that, because with COVID and the hurricane, I don't think we'd be talking to you right now. So we've been spared, and right now it's 30, probably about 28 degrees warm, and we're moving into our winter season, which is the more stable weather time of the year.
Right. Okay, perfect. We're all set with the introductions about the speakers. Next, I'd like to go for the questions. So it's a very new topic for me as well. So I've done a bit of research with the help of the speakers. So would like to start with my first question for Telly. So what are some of the technology trends you are seeing around the world in your own in your areas as well around intellectual property?
Wow. So, I mean, when you think about intellectual property, first of all, um, more and more now we're in a digital economy. Every single company has a composite of intellectual property
Yeah.
rights, right? And it's pretty much making up nearly 70% of your whole value. Um, as applied to media and entertainment, intellectual property rights is fundamental. That's really that's really the composite of your creative talents captured in either your copyright or design rights. Um, so what we're seeing is as trends really is the ability for you to now register your rights using a single source of truth, a ledger that you can actually transparently track. The issue with intellectual property right now, it's a lot of theft happening with IP. A lot of people, how do you prove it's yours, especially with copyright? Copyrights are generally automatic
Yeah.
for most jurisdictions. It's really an automatic right given to you. But the issue is, how do you prove it? You know, and you have traditional methods when you can, if you're writing a book and you're a writer, you can, package it, send it to the mail, post office, and mail it back to yourself to have the date and stamp, time stamp.
Yeah.
But now you can actually kind of, assign it onto the blockchain. So the application of digital signatures and leveraging newer decentralized technologies like the blockchain allow for the registration of rights, of a lot of these IP rights. The same would go for IP rights such as like trademarks. The trademark process, it's incredibly manual. It does take long for a lot of these rights to be registered and costs money. And
Yeah.
for the most part, you haven't even started monetizing your rights, right? You've just
Yeah.
created something. It can be codified. So the ability to codify it in a code and have it registered actually lowers the cost for the creators and
Yeah.
allows them to be effectively protected. So we're starting to see across different countries you know, uh, the use of blockchain technology for IP rights as well. And that's
Okay.
just
So
one example. Mhm.
yeah, so I'd go to John next, but I just want to continue with you for another question, which is very much related to your first point. So, how to protect, manage, and monetize new trends like tokenization that can help individual artists? Because we have a lot of freelance artists now, be it on likes of Netflix, like we have in Asia, Twitch, I guess. Oh, no, no, there's another platform as well. So, how to protect, manage, and monetize new trends like tokenization?
I think the blockchain itself, with the possibility of creating what digital signatures, we'll call that. Telly, you can help me with this. The chance, the opportunities to register different stages of the development of a song. For example, when you record a song, there are people involved there, the writers, the arrangers, the studios, the producers, there are many rights owners of that piece of intellectual property, the song. In the old days, you needed to have physical paper contracts and offices that manage these different ledgers. Um, and that was laborious, expensive, and sometimes corrupt. And a lot of energies and the resources were used to track owners of different rights, whether it be publishers or record companies. And then you had territorial barriers. I mean, each country, each region needs to have different types of markets, different types of tastes, and so therefore the music industry was strained to manage itself, and it became a dinosaur. Um, Come the digital world, a lot of that disappeared. You could well imagine. I don't need to go into detail, but now with blockchain, it's
Yeah.
possible to create these different contracts at every stage, so that everybody can see exactly what is and what they own. So an opportunity there now to decrease your costs, your labor costs, your administration costs, and then when the money when the contracts are monetized, it's possible then to see who owns what, who gets what, and the distribution of the money. And then because there is so much money involved, the asset is so big, it's possible then for the owners of the different rights to create its own currency even, and because it has its own industry as such. So the opportunities are huge for the music industry with blockchain.
Right. Great. I mean, this is such a fantastic topic. I mean, I'm just because we have Netflix, there's so many IP streaming platforms, Netflix, Spotify, Disney, we just name it. There are lots out there. So, next question, Telly, for you as an investor. So, how can startups in the space leverage intellectual property to drive capital in the space?
Okay, so you're talking about monetization. How do you monetize your IP from an investment lens? So there are many ways of forming capital. First of all, I think coming back to what we just spoke about of how do you first prove that it's yours? So I think very useful the application of specifically blockchain is the topic today. Blockchain provides evidence, right,
Yeah.
that you
True.
have created it. And I think it changes the form. Normally, you would have had to, you have an idea, ideas are all over the place. But the time you start shaping the idea into a form, whether it is music, whether it's written, whatever that form is, that becomes your intellectual property, right?
Right.
And and normally when you've done the form, you created the song, you shot the video and put in all your stuff, you publish it, and then it gets stolen, and then we're in problems.
Yeah.
Um, if you take a step before and you can sign it to produce that evidence that you have created it, then at least if someone steals it, you can track and capture the person. So I think, um, one of the most useful uses of blockchain is really that ability to use it for evidence,
Yeah.
um, as a registry. So then when you're now talking about, now that you have registered it and it's evidence, how do you monetize that? So there are many different ways of doing that. If we're looking at, converting it into a digital asset, you now can take your right, tokenize it, and create a digital asset. That, and then get investors to that. So what we saw back in 2017, 2018 during the ICO boom. Obviously, everyone was kind of creating their tokens, launching an ICO, talking about the ecosystem and stuff. So ICOs generally dead, but if we're now looking at even creating securities around that, because one, your IP does have value, especially when you start monetizing it, and you can generate royalties from it. So
Right.
one of the ways you could do that is perhaps incorporating into a fund.
Right.
So that's one way of monetizing it, and having that fund being a digitized fund. So
Yeah.
that's one way of having investors coming into your fund, and that protects your IP. Because I talk to a lot of creators, and their concern is, well, at the end of the day, it is my IP, and I want to generate royalties, and I don't want to give it up early. So there's a way you can actually have your royalty as the asset within the fund, and you have investors kind of pulling into it. So that's just one way of doing it. And then
Yeah.
obviously the fund has its own token. You're generating revenues based on the underlying asset, which is probably your music collection or your song. Um, that's one way of attracting capital and monetizing it this way. We're also
You
seeing
know,
in the in sorry, we're also
John, you
seeing
wanted to
like
add
the
something?
yeah,
lending space.
I'm,
Go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead,
getting
John.
very itchy.
Go
John,
ahead. Go ahead, John.
go ahead.
Wonderful.
Go ahead. Sorry, John, go ahead if you wanted
Yeah,
to add something.
yeah. I'd like to pick up on that point. I think the opportunity, okay, the opportunities are different for the future than what exists now. Is the possibility of creating that digital asset. For example, you as we've explained, the copyright exists, intellectual property exists. Now it's been monetized. Now, when it's time to um, pay for the use of that copyright, whether it be a radio station or a person who download the song. A radio
Mm-hmm.
station mean in terms of performance rights.
Right.
Um, when if it's digitalized, it's possible to create a special currency. I think the opportunity is there to create a currency,
Right.
and that currency can be used for everybody involved in that currency. For example, if you imagine a a a music dollar, Caribbean music dollar, for example,
Yeah.
that is a value of your royalty, and then you have a number of those tokens in your wallet, and then you can then purchase using that digital currency services in your industry. So you can pay for your studios with that currency. You can pay the photographer, and then they themselves can then they would then be involved in that ecosystem, that economic currency. And I think that for us in the Caribbean is a great opportunity, because it means that currency, it stays in the region, and it can actually grow as we export our music to other countries, and other territories are buying into our intellectual property and paying us back. It means that we then have a really volatile industry here. That's my dream. I don't know how. Maybe Telly can explain whether my dream is possible or not. But that's
Yeah.
that's where I think the opportunities lie for us. in
Yeah,
our
true.
small region. Mhm.
Right. So, did we discuss about the areas of application of the intellectual property rights using the blockchain technology? Maybe Telly can take us through that.
Um,
Yeah, and also John can. Yeah,
I
John,
can,
go ahead. You
yeah, I
started
think,
talking about
yeah,
the application.
I've been looking at it since the start, and we're trying now to, there are a couple of projects out now where we're um, trying to protect the performance rights of artists. I mean, that's a live performance, and
Right.
to bring the blockchain technology to that, meaning that when a song is performed at
Yeah.
a hotel, at a restaurant, at a bar, on the radio, wherever ever it is that it's called um, CMOs, copyright management
Mhm.
organizations, who these groups are monitoring and making sure that the people who have proper license to perform the music, and then they pay for those licenses, and then that money is repatriated to the owners. Blockchain provides a wonderful opportunity for that to happen. So from the get-go, you can see who owns the rights, who's exploiting the rights, and who are getting compensated for the use of those rights. I think that's the area which is being looked at right now by a number of organizations here in the Caribbean.
Right. Yeah, great points there, John. Would you like to add on to that because you were about to say something?
Yeah, just similar to what John is saying, when you're looking at how do you then capture and monitor. So there's a layering of number of technologies one can use, from geolocation, especially if you're having like a live production, to then specifically when you're looking at the intellectual property rights, as he said, performance rights, even the copyrights and their place, especially when you're looking at music and performance. You have newer technologies that can actually capture the location base, as well as they use AI to
Yeah.
kind of map it to a database to see if it's been recorded. And that way, if you have a streamlined system, say, like he said, you've already tokenized and you have a single unit of currency. Because I mean, the whole opportunity with digital assets is really for value transfer.
Yeah.
So in essence, it's a currency for some sort of value transfer. There's value in the intellectual property. So once that is developed and tracked, then a smart contract can be embedded that actually has the value of what the musician is playing or performing, and they can track like how many plays the song was done, and then it immediately calculates all of this, because traditionally everything was done manually, and it was really really hard, or not manually, semi manually, but it's really hard to capture who's playing whose music or who's watching. Now you can do it all digitally, but it's you need a number of different technologies to kind of work together. So we're seeing like that merging of various technologies. It's more of a convergence of a number of technologies that come together to allow for that. And once you have that value transfer captured, it means that the artist can get paid almost immediately, because it's all within that loop, that ecosystem. So let's just see, the issue you have is a lot of smaller artists are
Yeah.
not financially independent. And you can literally unlock access to finance to them if you have systems that can streamline and support the delivery of royalties and payments. So, if you're playing my song, all I want is a wallet, and every minute I see my wallet just filling up. I don't need to wait for a month, 2 months to start seeing the benefits and the fruit of my labor, right? So
Yeah.
that is something that's a key application. So I mean, we talked a bit about also using it for protection and
Yeah.
security, but also for management. Yeah. I would say licensing. How do
Right.
you, if you're licensing out your solution, you're licensing out your product, how do you effectively track it, and how do you, capture the value that's being created on it? Rather than using manual processes, you can use that. Those are some of the applications. And what I must say that while the applications have been fantastic, it's actually disrupting existing structures and organizations as well. Because so what is the role of a royalties collection agency if they're leveraging technology
Yeah.
to do this? After a while, do you really, and if it's decentralized, do you really need a royalties collection agency? Or could that agency be
No.
shrunk to one or two people,
Yeah.
from governance structure who just need to place the
Absolutely.
devices in the
Yeah.
place? So
That
a
that that
combination of IoT and a number of things
Yeah.
could definitely be
Exactly.
used.
I think that's an issue that we have. It's a mindset that needs to change.
Yeah.
Um, in the past, when you come talk about music, in the past, traditionally it was that you created a piece of work that was owned by a company, and you had a share in that as a writer, and they had to then market it. Yeah, often you got an advance for that, and then you had to wait for sales to match that advance for you to get more money, and the company's job was to go out and market it into different regions, and this process could have taken months, years before we actually saw any money back. Therefore, they created advance, so you had an advance first. Um, so you in that mindset, you were dealing in bulk. It was like a bulk business, so to speak. You had to wait until you had X amount of thousands of dollars owed to you before you ever got any money back. The change now is to think in terms, digital terms, in micropayments. It's all about micropayments, small,
Right.
small amounts, so that when a play is your song is played on the radio or downloaded, you're going to get 0.001 cent, okay, but which is nothing. To get somebody to manually collect 0.001 cent, it's a huge task. It's too expensive. But
Right.
digitally, you can do that, and that 0.001 cent will suddenly becomes 1,000.00 very, very quickly, and
Right.
it's a different mindset completely. And it's when we start thinking in terms of micro payments in music, then things can start changing. Um, then answering the question about this copyright management organization, are they necessary?
Yeah.
Would digitalization or blockchain, would this eliminate these organizations? Yes, it could do, because the artist can get paid direct. But I don't. I think that is kind of a utopia, to expect artists to put his work out there and to get money in direct. There must be some form of management, and the copyright management organizations, whether it be a publishing copyright management organization or a record company, or whatever, these companies still would need to exist, um, and because you have territorial issues, you have the difference of culture and tastes, and then of course something needs to be put in place to back the currencies. For example, if when the license owners um, uh, needs the license owner needs a company to represent their works. What I mean to say is that if I don't want to get too much involved in explaining what I'm trying to say, but it's needed for a rights company organization to represent everybody, if you know what I
Right.
mean, because it's reinvented the whole wheel, which will not be like throwing out the whole industry and starting again. It's like, I'm going to sit in my bedroom and I'm going to play my music, I'm going to put it on the internet, I'm going to get paid. I think that is a utopia that's going to be very difficult to achieve.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know what I'm
Got it.
saying?
Yeah. Great insights, John. So I've got another question for either of you, Telly or John. So why is blockchain the perfect fit for patents and benefits, and what benefits does it give to the SMEs?
Blockchain, as I said, is transparency, smart contracts. There's a lot of contracts. I mean, the song is in your mind, okay? It's in your mind, it's in your heart, and now you got to get that out to into somebody's car, into their headphones, and there are a lot of people who involved in a lot of chain, a lot of sequences along the chain, and yeah, blockchain has a chance to put value to each stage along the chain, you know, and so that everybody could see what is happening. So the opportunities are endless with blockchain. It's the only way. It is the way forward. This is the way forward because the way that's been done at the moment is antiquated. It's 150 years old. You know, it's as old as the book printing. You know, and now the blockchain is a way to physically to monetize
Yeah.
a digital world and music product creation. It is okay. It's a thought, and it's create monetizing something you have in your heart and giving it to somebody else. And how do you do that? It's not like making a car. You have a metal, you have gas, you have fuel, and you can see that car. With music, it's a concept. And how do you monetize a concept? Blockchain can allow you to do that because it puts everybody involved along the chain on the same page to see what's happening at the same time. And it monetizes each stage of production right to the very end, until from the thought to the payment of it. And then now also, I think if you create a currency, when you have that payment, you can actually buy more of that same kind of currency, or pay the studio, pay the photographer with the currency that you created from your thought. Your thought will create digital currency, and that currency can be used to pay people who are doing the same thing as you are.
Great. So it's about monetizing, the opportunity to monetize, and micropayments for the SMEs.
And if
Perfect.
I could add, I could add just a little bit on that, like the fact that you now have a digital currency. If you look at what's happening in DeFi, decentralized finance, and the ability to then kind of leverage your digital currency,
Yeah.
perhaps use it as collateral and get a loan from it and lending, it's significant value. So I think we can look at what's going on in the DeFi space and see how um, that can be transposed to media and entertainment to see how they can unlock liquidity, leveraging their existing IP. Even let's not even talk about the existing royalties from the IP, but contracts. If I have a contract to shoot a film, I have a contract to perform.
Yeah.
That contract itself can then be used as, a collateral, because you can get forwards, you can get, royalties from finance. That's royalties based on your future income. From that, you can also unlock. So I think it's really an amazing space. Um, Challenge really is adoption, and like John said, it's really changing the mindset, because people are just square pegs. They're focused in a old paradigm, and getting to that paradigm shift that, hello, you can actually use certain technologies to digitize the process, works. But in doing so, there are going to be a lot of, should I say, uh, people within the chain, or entities within the chain, that are going to be rendered
Rendered.
inept. Yeah, yeah, useless. So, but I mean, there is a role for them. It's just that they have to redefine it and reskill.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's the word, disintermediation.
This creation, right?
But you
Thank
see,
you.
the challenge we face is this the information along the chain of production of songs, the intellectual copyright. Uh, it's the secrecy was the value in the past. That's where the mindset is a problem. The secrecy, like for example, an artist didn't know that he was selling in Japan. He's sitting in London. He made a contract with a company in London, and it was years after he realized he was selling a lot in Japan. And he was selling a lot in Malaya. He was selling a lot in Singapore. He has not a clue of where he's selling. He has to wait for the publisher to tell him, and the record company to tell him, his management to tell him. And then when he realizes, well, actually, all the children in Singapore knows about me. How did I didn't know about that. I'm a household name. All the kids in that block know my song. And he didn't know that. You see, so the secrecy was the value. The secrecy that the record company had, or the knowledge that they were selling in a territory. They had a contract in Japan, in the Far East there. That was his value. That, not telling the artist, not telling the record company, not telling the management was a value for that record company back in the day. You know, blockchain and digitalization will
Yes.
eliminate that completely, and it would change everything because what used to happen for a company to be selling in Tokyo or in Singapore, they needed lawyers had to be there to protect those rights. And managements had to be, sub publishers had to be involved to collect the money from the people, from the users in those territories. All that will change, but it's about time because it's so old, it's so ancient, and it's corrupted. And the blockchain opportunity, the blockchain provides an opportunity for everybody on the same playing field.
Absolutely. That's the beauty about blockchain technology. Uh,
It's actually interesting you say that because I remember, I think it was back in 2009, 2010. I went to Japan. I was in Japan for some events. And I heard this song called Turn Me On by Kevin Little, who's from St. Vincent. And everyone was rocking. It was like the hip of the day. And I was like, okay, it's in Japan. Cool. Does he know that? And I'm sure he doesn't.
uh,
And then, strangely enough, 2 years ago, a year and a half, I was in Germany,
yeah.
and my professor was like, "Oh my God, you gotta hear this song." And I was like, "What is it?" She turned it up, and I think she said, "Oh, it's a number one hit." I said, "Do you know how old that song is?" And I said, "By the way, Kevin Little was my neighbor back
Wow.
in the day." And I'm like, I say to myself, "Does he know? Does
Yeah,
he know how famous he is, how
Yes.
popular he is in Asia, in
Yeah.
Europe? Is he aware? Because he lives in Florida. Is he
Right.
aware of? And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure he doesn't. So this is where I think if you add in additional technologies like IoT
Yeah.
com- together with
That was my next
blockchain
question. That
and
was my next question. Yeah.
oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was then baked into an architecture for you to start on location, for you to start tracking, for all radio stations to be mandated to incorporate these technologies. It means that when there's an airplay of anything, it really checks the databases, global registers, to see who's the author, who's
yeah,
the author
exactly.
of the
Yeah,
song, and then it breaks it down to all the people along that value chain that have contributed. Because in producing, in the final production, you've got the writer, you've got the engineer, you got so many people. They're like 20. It's crazy.
that
But
is
now,
done.
if everyone can get their fraction, it's perfect.
That is done at the moment. It's called meta tagging. It's done at the
Yes.
moment.
Meta. Sorry,
Like
what's that?
meta tagging. Meta,
Meta. Okay.
yeah, as that
Right.
everybody involved. When a song is created, you create a database of everybody involved, the studios, the writers, the arrangers, everybody, and their shares. So that's embedded in the song at its birth, and then that follows the song all the way through. And there are technology involved that collects its metadata and then
Right.
portions the shares to the people as the data stipulates. So it is being used at the moment. It's been used for many years, for at least 15 years. Meta tagging has been used for 15 years now, at least.
Yeah, but if you add the meta tagging and then you have it on the blockchain, then it's
Absolutely,
it just
absolutely.
it's a game changer. It's a
Game
game
changer.
changer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
It's
then
So
low
the
that will benefit
cost.
the SMEs and the artists.
exactly
Yeah.
that's where they come in. That's where they come in. But
Right.
the challenge is for people to understand, the scope of blockchain, and people got to get their head around it first of all. The smart contracts, how do they actually work? And it's difficult for people to get their head around it. It's a different mindset completely.
Right.
But it's also disruptive because you have
Well,
the big companies that would not want that information to get into the hands of people because
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
just going to totally wreck their revenue models unless they
absolutely.
decide to change their business models and maybe create a more ecosystem. If they were to transform to more ecosystem models where everyone, has a fair share, I guess they would survive. So it's a battle.
Yes, that's why I said in the first place that secrecy is value. It's value, and it's value to, especially the big record companies, the major companies. If you look at major record companies, the EMI, CBS, when back of the day, were actually owned by banks, quite, banks and large corporations, because the secrecy was value.
Yeah.
It's value.
Perfect. I just want to know to touch base on IP streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney, and the music companies, Apple, Spotify.
Spotify.
Yeah. So, how do you think blockchain can help peer to bring in peer-to-peer sales and content distribution for these kind of media platforms, or can they? Or can they not?
Um, they 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 are the talk about Spotify, Netflix. I don't know so much about that. That's film. Spotify, I know a little bit more about. They are themselves doing as well as they could do. Um, they don't need blockchain at the moment, because they Spotify is at the end of the chain, so to speak. They're
Yeah.
a small part. They're at the end of the chain. They're at the end of the chain. Um,
Right.
so we they can probably use they would use a blockchain, I'm sure, to
Right.
monitor their clients, their
Yeah.
customers,
Yeah.
and how they pay their royalties
Yeah.
to the owners, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So they will find use of blockchain much quicker. For us, the SMEs, the use of blockchain for us is before Spotify, before
Right.
before we go to digital distribution, which
Right.
for us, as we said, is it's registering the rights owners, um, and whether the publishers, the songwriters. That is where we need to be involved in blockchain before Spotify. Spotify and
Right.
others, they are using their digital distribution, and their and digitalization of the works. They're definitely using that. Otherwise, they are the forerunners of micropayments. If you go back, Telly can probably tell you more about that. But she was the first person I ever had a conversation about about micropayments 10
Right.
years ago. Is that right, Telly?
Yeah.
So
No,
But
well,
they're,
my
cha-
perspective.
they're,
Go ahead.
they're champions of that. Spotify and the Netflix, they're champions of micropayments.
right.
They've got it well sorted out. And I think they will go to blockchain when for their
Absolutely.
own economies, and their economies of scale, and making it cheaper for them to operate. And I know, and even for when they need to pay their royalties, they will definitely go that way. But that's not our opportunities. Our opportunities with blockchain is before that process. You
Right.
know,
For SMEs. Thank you so much, John. I'm just
Oh,
conscious time.
Yeah.
We got 1 hour
I,
session, so we can probably continue this discussion on another
I can
session.
go really quickly, really short.
Please,
I
please.
think from my perspective is while they might be at the end of the chain, they are. What they have done is replace the traditional, big four or five
Absolutely.
firms within the industry to become key players in the stream. What will kick them out is ecosystem models
Right.
because other platforms might decide to adopt a more comprehensive ecosystem model where they're actually supporting fans. So, since the lockdown, I've consumed so much content on
Same
Netflix.
here.
And
Same.
I'm like, well, hello, why haven't I got paid for loyalty?
Yeah.
Because this is like crazy. I have been consuming. They're getting money from advertisers and stuff.
Yes.
They know they make a mint. So why
Ah,
haven't they shared some of that? So I think there's going to be pressure, but from consumers to
yeah.
want to, start to earn. And when you have a model, someone comes out with a model that actually you know, gives rewards, then that's going to be a game changer. I can now take this to the parallel of what's happening even in the blockchain space. Why do people even adopt these new
Absolutely.
protocols?
I
Because
agree.
they do airdrops and rewards, and people want to be a part of it.
Absolutely. We do
So
for our clients.
exactly. So they're still hugging most of the revenue. I heard a musician tell me, "Oh, Telly, do you know how much I really get from CD Baby and Spotify? I get this much. The check was $20 and my heart sank. You know, she's like, this is definitely not working out. And she's been trying to listen to her airplays. It's just not working out. So I
Right.
think it's time they still make a mint giving back. And
Giving.
now the pressures of how do you foster a more inclusive
Right.
community. I
Yeah,
think giving back is one of the things they have to do. And when another platform has that model, trust me, they're going to lose customers. So
I think just one last point on that. I think that change will come with technology. It's a technology, a piece of technology. I think the changes have come uh, through. I'll explain quickly. All right, we need a hardware part. When a piece of equipment comes, um, th- that will be a game changer. Whether you remember when the game changer back in the day was the cassette, the Sony Walkman. That was a game changer. The Sony Walkman itself, it was a hardware. You understand?
Oh, I
Um,
remember that.
and then the next game changer was the iPod. That was the next game changer.
Yes.
The game changer will have to come from a piece of hardware.
Yeah.
Maybe you could be right, Tolly. Maybe you can get your the word you use, you call it your when you awards, when you
rewards, yeah,
reward.
your
Yeah, when
loyalty
you
reward.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you may get that through. I don't know how it's going to work. It's a concept that's going to. It has to be something as big as that.
It could actually be the device, it could be the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be that. So
Yeah.
it has to
Yeah.
be a piece of technology, hardware is with the next game changer for Spotify or and to unseat them
Yeah.
because it is wrong. And I'm from Sweden. I lived in Sweden, and the Spotify Swedish company. I take my hat off to the young men in Sweden came up with that wonderful idea. But I think it is a sin when, as a creator of an idea, which is a intellectual concept. Okay, you are then worth $2.5 billion.
Yeah.
You understand?
Absolutely.
To own a part of a concept that you don't own. It's the owners, the songwriters. They're the ones who own that. You own the idea, the transfer of the idea. I think it's a little bit of a shame for that. Sorry.
No, 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 absolutely. John and Telly are really, really, besides having a fun time, good time, I learned a lot from you guys, both of you. And I'm looking forward to have you on our forthcoming sessions as well on the same topic because I think we just started. on this topic.
Yeah, we're just starting.
We just started discussions, and there are a lot more to cover. So, conscious of the time, I just want to know, what's the feedback about VCTV? Because you've just, John just got on VCTV for the first time. So, what's your feedback about that?
I'm very happy we're all speaking the same language, even so
Ah,
we're so far apart in time and distance. And
right.
I think it's this this community concept, and making the world a smaller place. We all know that we get to understand, even the time zone, we all getting it. We're getting up and you're going to bed, but we all still speak the same language, and this
Absolutely.
technology is bringing us closer together.
That's so
I'm very
true.
happy. I'm very happy to be a part of this.
Thank you, John. Thank you for that. Telly, over to you, please.
Awesome. I've been, it's not my first time on VCTV, but of course, the first time on the Asia circuit.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's early in the morning here. I think the insights, I think the value of VCTV holistically for me are the insights. It really does help different target groups understand what the trends are, where to focus on, what not to focus on. And I think that has the greatest value, whether they're businesses, startups, or even investors as well, have a better sense of, okay, what are the pitfalls, what are the areas they should be looking at, especially into if they're into thematic investing. So yeah, it's really been a great initiative, and I really thank you for having me on the program.
Same here. Thank you, Telly, for your commitment and your timing, and for sharing the insights, the valuable insights with our audience. So this is the finally you reached the end of the show. So those founders who are looking to connect with Telly and also John, they can do that by going to our website and get connected with them, and other investors and speakers who would like to network with Telly and John today, just like the way we did it. They can also reach out to us by our website, and we're going to connect directly with them. So thank you so much. And you're just starting your day. Have a great day, Telly and John, and stay safe and stay healthy. And we're going to connect back again on another topic and another session. Till then, goodbye and have a great day.